Thank you so much for keeping it with us on UBC TV. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra. I'm Robert Cherabo on your internet. And like you've always been seeing the adverts, the promotions of this show, today we are going to be looking at issues regarding deposit insurance and the mandate of the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. Now, money is hard to make, but also when you make it, you want to store it in a safe place. And in the 21st century, we no longer use certain boxes, having your port, keeping money somewhere. We go to financial institutions. Now, what happens when those financial institutions have challenges? What do? This year alone, we've seen 2 institutions close. Now, what happens to those that have been having their deposits there? I'm not the best person to discuss this. However, I have competent people, very authoritative when it comes to this matter of protecting customers' deposits. Now, join me, welcome Dr. Julia Claire Olima Oyet, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. You're most welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Robert, and good morning, viewers. Thank you for tuning in.
And at the extreme end, I have a gentleman putting on that tie of Trump, I must say, that color. And he happens to be the Director of Communication, Patrick Ezaga. He's with me this morning, and of course, I know there's so much he has for us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Robert. Good morning to you, and good morning, Uganda. It's a pleasure to always be here to share with you.
Now, I want to start with the doctor. Moreover, ladies first. So, Doctor, when you talk about the Deposit Protection Fund, someone hearing about this for the first time or has heard of this, but not well versed with the information, please give us a brief background of the Deposit Protection Fund. But also, let's understand when it was established and what's your mandate?
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. So the Deposit Protection Fund is an agency of the government of Uganda, which was established in 2016, and we started operationalizing it in 2017 after the Minister of Finance appointed a board, and then the board appointed a management team and also recruited staff into the fund. So the mandate of the fund is largely to pay depositors up to the protected amount of 10 million shillings in the event that the financial institution that you have indicated is closed by the Bank of Uganda. Now, the DPF then creates confidence amongst the majority of the depositors, because at the 10 million shillings, we're covering 98% of the depositors in the sector. So the DPF comes in to create confidence amongst those depositors that in the unlikely event that their bank is closed, they will not lose. They will get paid immediately the 10 million shillings. And then what happens to the amount above the 10 million shillings, they'll wait for the liquidation process, and still they will get their payment depending on the amount that is recovered from liquidation. So that is the DPF creating public confidence amongst the depositors so that they can put their money in banks that are regulated, supervised, and that they will not be left in the cold if that institution closes.
Rightly said. Now, this year witnessed the closure of 2 institutions, but there is some keyword I heard when you're talking about regulated. That means that me keeping my money anywhere as a financial institution doesn't give me guarantee that in case of uncertainty, the Deposit Protection Fund will cover me. It's very important as we move on. Please first emphasize that.
Okay. So the DPF provides protection to depositors of institutions that are licensed and regulated by the Bank of Uganda. That is the mandate of the Deposit Protection Fund. Now, there are other regulators within the financial sector. So we have regulators that regulate the microfinance sector. We have regulators for insurance sector. Now all those regulators, I know, are in the process of coming up with also schemes to protect the customers of their particular sectors. So for the DPF, it is only those that are regulated and licensed by the Bank of Uganda.
That said, a quick one also. Now, Doctor, let's look at the two institutions that closed this we saw you swing into action very fast. What exactly did you do, and also some lessons, if any, that were learned?
So, Robert, immediately we got news from the Bank of Uganda that the institutions were going to be closed. We at the DPF created a crisis management team, because for deposit protection funds or agencies, a bank closure immediately for us is a crisis. So we constituted that team. We came up with a plan on how we're going to communicate to the public so that the public remains confident that we are taking action to make payments. We made sure we got the listing, depositors listing from the Bank of Uganda, because they are the ones that regulate and supervise these institutions. We of course fed that information into our system so that we were able to pay depositors who had balances of up to 1 million shillings. We started paying them through mobile money because we felt that that was safe. It was safe to take the risk up to 1 million shillings. And then there was a group of depositors who had given us their national IDs, and we were able to match their national ID data with their bank account data. Those ones we asked to go to Stanbic Lugogo to be able to get paid cash over the counter. So immediately the bank was closed. Ugandans must know that we don't sit. We take swift action to ensure that within the shortest time possible, you're able to access up to the 10 million shillings. But of course, if you had a balance of 2 million shillings, we'll not pay you 10 million. It depends on the balance that you have. And also for those depositors who might have had loans with the contributing institutions, we offset that and pay you the balance. Yes.
Now this takes me to Patrick. One of the most interesting thing is that we talk about the contributing institution. Now help our viewer know, what is a contributing institution? And also, how do I get to know if my institution is a contributing institution that I'm dealing with?
Thank you, Robert. Good morning once again, dear viewers. As already mentioned, the fund, as a government agency, regulates and works in the financial space. Now, when we talk of contributing institutions, what we mean is those institutions that fall under the purview and the regulation of the central bank. As already mentioned, there are different kinds of financial institutions, but there are those that directly fall under the supervision of the central bank. So when we mention contributing institution, we're actually talking about those institutions that pool resources together. The word contribute explains it. So they make a contribution to a basket called the DPF. Even, I mean, if you look at it historically, from the word go, we used to keep granaries and so on in anticipation of bad times, okay? So these institutions, by law, are required to make a contribution, which you put in the basket, so that when they collapse, like EFC and Mercantile went down this year, that is the resource that we use to come back to ensure that all the depositors of such an institution are taken care of. Now, how does one know whether their institution is a contributing institution or not? It's a very simple thing. Let me use a simple analogy that most people may understand. You know, when you walk into a shop, you'll find a trading license displayed, issued by whichever authority. In the same vein, the central bank issues licenses to the contributing institutions that it regulates. And the contributing institutions are required to ensure that that license is displayed in a location that is easily visible to everyone. So the simple thing a depositor can do is you walk into a financial institution and just look around. You'll probably see it hanging somewhere. It's supposed to be very conspicuously displayed, easy to access, easy to see. But just in case you are not able to spot it, there is no crime in asking. You walk to the bank teller, you walk to the customer service person, whoever is at the front desk dealing with customers, and say, oh, by the way, where can I see your trading license? So it's actually displayed, and from then on, it becomes easy for you to get courage and confidence that you're dealing with an institution that is actually regulated.
Now, this brings me also to something similar. You know, Ugandans, we don't like so much to bother ourselves. Now, a question to someone watching us is, why should the public or citizens be interested about knowing the Deposit Protection Fund? If I have my monies, I've made them, I've banked them in a bank, you know, what bothers me? I get my money when I want to withdraw, I get my money when I want to deposit. Yes.
Robert, you know, there are two things here. One, as you rightly said, people don't like being bothered, and it's quite unfortunate. But a good citizen should take interest in knowing about the goings-on in the country. And so the first reason why you need to know that DPF exists is because we are an agency of government established primarily to serve the citizens. And as a good citizen, it is important to know which are the government agencies that are displayed in order to protect you, in order to provide you services should the need arise. I mean, it is not uncommon to find people taking problems to agencies of government that have nothing to do with it. So, Robert, you also know that in this day and age, information is power. Technology has enabled us to be able to send out information, but despite that, a huge proportion of our citizenry still doesn't have that access. So yes, it is important for you to know that DPF is an agency of government, but more importantly, it is an agency that is supposed to give you reassurance in the event of bad times. Should things go south with the financial institution you're in, you are protected. But I must emphasize that the protection focuses primarily on what we call the less sophisticated depositors, the bottom of the pyramid, if I were to speak in that context. And this is the global phenomenon of deposit insurance. It targets that category that is not very informed. Robert, yourself, who is exposed, you're expected to be able to monitor the performance of your financial institution. But your uncle and my auntie down in the village don't have that opportunity. They carry their money in full trust and confidence and take it to an institution expecting it to be safe. Okay? What happens thereafter is exactly what you're saying. They just go, withdraw, use, or bring in. That's the transaction they know. But in the end, it is important to emphasize the less sophisticated category, because we all know that should such an institution collapse, the net impact of the collapse of such an institution is much heavier on them. Many a time, the entire resource basket is in that one account. But as Robert, probably because you're more exposed, you're probably multi-banked. You have 1, 2, 3 accounts in different banks. And chances that all the 3 will collapse at once will not be easy. But to your uncle and my auntie in the village, when that little money they have saved goes and there is no reprieve, there is no opportunity for recovery, that livelihood is terribly affected. Yeah.
Now, relatedly, in the same of what I've heard you say,
Yes.
it brings me to again ask, who is protected and how do I get my protected deposits? Because I want to have the chirumiras of this world feel left out.
The protection, as already mentioned, covers depositors who are keeping their money and their savings and transacting in what we call the regulated institutions. So anybody who has their money in those institutions that are regulated by the central bank are the first line of people that are protected. And as already mentioned, the protection is up to the limit of 10 million shillings. I know viewers and yourself must be wondering, why 10 million? But we'll speak to that. So it is very important to emphasize that for you to come under the protection of the DPF, you must ensure that your money is in an institution that is properly regulated, and you have confirmed that actually, yes, this is an regulated institution.
Now,
yes.
Add on to what Patrick has said, and he has already mentioned it, but I want to emphasize. And you mentioned those who have the richer part of Ugandans. How are they protected? They are protected through them making sure that they know the financial status of the bank in which they are going to put their money. And that is the reason why the Bank of Uganda publishes the financial statements of all the banks in the newspapers, so that it is public information, so that you can be able to read and see, is my bank making profit? Is it growing? Is it declining? And therefore, you make an informed decision. because like you indicated, this is money we work so hard to make. We can't be careless when we're depositing it. We need to know, where am I depositing this money? And information is available.
Now, Doctor, there you're making it hard for Ugandans, but it's important they have gotten that information. Because when you look at many of our people, usually deal with what they call the Kwagalana group, the city tycoons in our country, and a number of them members of the CACITA, that is the Kampala Electricity Traders Association now. One of the things that they prioritize, which bank will give me a loan very fast, in a very expeditious manner. Second, which bank will I be easily to withdraw? My money that doesn't have so much complications. If I wanted to get maybe, I've seen land of 300 million. Which bank is it easy for me to just move in? And which bank do I have connection that I can even call, either jump a queue or something like that. But looking at, given our culture, reading and all that, it becomes very hard for many people who have money. And you see, money also comes with some heat. Now, when you have it, if I woke up today and you give me some good amount of money, you even feel it burning. So someone wants to see, how fast do I rush it to a safe haven?
Yes.
You know, then no soon again some big money comes in, you feel the heat. You feel, you want to keep it, you know. You can even sense so has gotten money.
Yes.
So that's interest. How do you promote it? People to seek that knowledge.
Yes.
That yes, you're making a lot of money, but that bank, how is it performing? Is there any way maybe that the financial deposit protection fund has put in effort? I doubt I can ask any of the tycoons we have for the status of their bank and their where. The only thing they will tell me, if you want a quick loan, there. I know someone there, even money can reach you where you want it.
Okay, Robert, I think you've raised very important points, and they are valid. I think this is the time now for Ugandans to start looking at it differently. First of all, the Governor Bank of Uganda has severally mentioned that the banking sector in Uganda is solid, is sound. Most of the banks, like my colleague has said, are operating soundly, but that will not rule out one or two banks that might be facing some challenges. So the banks now, all of them are trying to provide services as fast as possible. All of them are now into modern IT. And so there is still a variety that the depositors can choose from the banks that are there. You mentioned not being interested in the financial performance. I'm sure these groups that have lots of money have accountants or financial advisors. Those financial advisors should now be tasked also to advise the owners of this money. These are the banks I'm depositing in. Tell me what the performance is. And you can't tell me you don't have information, because Bank of Uganda has published this information. So now the onus is on us who have the money to be able to task those who help us in making those decisions to give us the information. There's another thing that is important to mention, and you mentioned a number of them, but one that we have seen is the interest that a bank is giving you. You find that the interest a bank is giving you is so high, and that clouds your mind. And you might not understand, why is the bank giving me a very high interest? You put your money and the next minute that bank is closed. So you have to look at all these factors, balance them out with understanding the financial performance of your bank, and then take your decision on whether you want to continue or whether you'd like to change. And that is the law of life. You don't take, if you take reckless decisions, then you expect a consequence or an outcome which might not be favorable. But if you take balanced decisions, then at least the outcome will be something that you'll be proud of.
Doctor, still on that, now asking for us, the rich, that may have money exceeding 10 million in the bank, and your fixed deposit is at 10 million. Now what happens for me who may have my 500, my 200 million, and then at the closure, the Deposit Protection Fund can only give to a maximum of 10 million.
Yes. So that is why you should try not to be amongst those who put their deposit in an institution which was maybe not as strong as the others. Because you have a big stake, and that is the responsibility that a depositor has. You have also responsibility for the money that you have made, where you're going to put it. The other thing is, of course, there's liquidation. Liquidation can result in you getting all your money, and that is very possible. But there might be some sort of a delay as they're trying to sell the assets of the bank. So you, Robert, from the way you're talking, it seems you must be having much, much more than the 10 million. Now from here, go and know your bank. Get people who can read those financial statements if you're finding challenges. Pay the person 500,000 shillings. These are my statements of my bank. Tell me about my bank. The person will give you that information and you take an informed decision. So Ugandans must wake up and read and know. We cannot continue operating in the bliss of ignorance. Information, they say, is power. Thank you.
Now this takes me to Patrick. Patrick, when a bank closes and I have a loan there, should I jubilate and say how pleasant it is that the Lord has been faithful to me? Now I don't have to pay this loan. What happens to those where a bank closes and they have a loan?
Thank you, Robert. First off, to note that banks collapse for many reasons. And one of the possible reasons is people not repaying their loans. I think it's a standard, and it should be in everybody's mind that when you borrow, you must prepare to return. You do not borrow with the intention of defrauding. Many a time you go to borrow because you are in a financial state of distress yourself. So you need that money to solve that distress. And once you've gotten the money to solve the distress, it's only courteous and responsible of you to repay. So there is no jubilation. We have had these comments out in the public that now that my bank has died, it has died with the entire loan, isn't it?
I've survived.
Far from it. That is very, very far from the truth. The loan doesn't die. So what happens is, let's say you have a loan of 5 million with the financial institution that has now collapsed. At the time of payout, we first recover that 5 million. Remember, the CEO has alluded to a liquidator being appointed by the Bank of Uganda to ensure that a closed financial institution exits in a smooth manner. One of the roles of the liquidator is to pull together whatever is left of that closed institution, some of which includes making those recoveries, okay? So we facilitate the liquidator, so appointed, in collections by ensuring that at the time of repaying you the protected deposit, we first cut out the loan amount. So using the example I gave, if it was 5 million, we will not give you 10. We'll first cut the what? The 5 million and pass it on to the liquidator who is doing the collections. You would get the difference. Now, the converse is also true. If your loan was 15 million, we will withhold the entire 10, and you will still have to fulfill your obligation of the balance of the 5 over and above the protected limit to the appointed liquidator, because that money does not die with the collapse of the institution. You're obligated. It's just good manners that when you borrow, please borrow to repay back. Yeah.
Now, if the depositor has more than one account.
Okay. Now, if the depositor has more than one account, first let me say that the protection that we provide is per depositor and not per account. What we mean by depositor, a depositor is defined using specifics, unique identifiers. I'll use myself as an example. If I have an individual account called Patrick Ezaga, okay, in one bank, but Patrick and Robert, we have a joint account.
Yes.
So from the lens of the bank, Patrick Ezaga is an individual depositor. Patrick Ezaga and Robert is a separate depositor. You understand? So in such a case, as an individual depositor, I will be entitled to my 10 million. Now, if I have a joint account with you, that is still one depositor, okay? We will be given the 10 million. How we share it depends on how we are putting the resources together. But it could also happen that as an individual, I have Patrick Ezaga account 1, Patrick Ezaga account 2. Okay? In such a case, I still remain the same depositor. So at the time of payout, we amalgamate that and still give you the threshold of 10 million.
Okay, very interesting. No fears so far, because my fear was the 10 million above. What happens? But the CEO has clarified on that very well. Allow me to go for a very short break now. When we return after the break, we'll be receiving phone calls, and you can use my WhatsApp number. Please don't call on my WhatsApp number. The number to call on will be displayed on the screen. I'll be picking your phone calls, but also you can still send me a WhatsApp message, and I can guarantee you I'll read those messages. Going for a short break, we'll be right back.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
The Ministry of Health informs the general public that there are some cases of Mpox detected in Uganda. The ministry, working with partners and affected district local governments, are doing their best to contain the situation. The signs and symptoms of Mpox are body rash, fever, general body weakness, headache, sore throat, nasal congestion or cough, and swollen lymph nodes. You can prevent yourself from getting infected with Mpox by avoiding close contact with people who have been confirmed to have Mpox or who have signs and symptoms of Mpox. Avoiding touching or sharing personal items like beddings, eating utensils, phones, or other belongings of a person who has the signs and symptoms of Mpox. Avoiding contact, including eating, with all wild animals, alive or dead, especially those known to carry the virus, such as rodents and monkeys, and those that appear sick or have been found dead. Getting vaccinated if you're among those who have been identified to be at high risk of Mpox infection. Mpox is treatable and usually goes away after 2 to 4 weeks. However, it can be severe, causing even death, especially among children, pregnant women, and those with other health conditions. For more information and support, contact your nearest health worker. Call the Ministry of Health's toll-free line on 0800 100 066 or send a free SMS to YouReport on 8500.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution, or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone, or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312 206 400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We are the DPF. We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Good morning, and I can't thank you enough for being part of the show as we get to know more about the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda and its role and those disturbing challenges. Now, we know that we all keep money in the bank. I want to assume, because when I look at statistics, well, every day, people who are using credible financial institutions to keep their money, the number is growing. We are moving away from having a pot somewhere in the garden, having some under the bed and all that. In case you're still doing that, that's a cake and not safe at all. But even when you're banking, are you banking with a accredited institution? Because much as I have my guests today and they are promising you insurance in case of that, after a tune of 10 million, then the rest, of course, comes with the liquidation process later on. But the key word here is a contributing institution and one that is under the central bank. Now, that is the Bank of Uganda. So those are very critical. If you're out of that space, all these good words and assurance may not be for you. Now, here I bring in Doctor. Doctor, what is a bank run? I've heard of this so many times. And really, what happens when this happens, and how does the Deposit Protection Fund help? Yes.
Okay. So Robert, a bank run is just as the word has it, people running to the bank. And usually it happens when there's a rumor. Now we have social media. Someone just decides and says Bank A is going to close. And so everybody believes in that false rumor and runs to the bank. Now the bank most likely will not have all our deposits. And why? Because of the way a bank conducts banking business. When we put our money in the bank, it doesn't sit waiting for us to withdraw. The bankers get that money, and it's the same money that they give out in loans, and you've mentioned loans several times. So they receive that money, give it to other customers in loans. So the customers are busy using the money, supporting their businesses, knowing that they're going to be paying at certain periods of time. Now, when all the depositors decide that today we want our money, what happens to the loans? The people who have taken the loans cannot also pay the money overnight, and therefore you find the bank starts struggling with finding the money to pay all the depositors at once. And if nothing is done, that bank can collapse. And if there is a bank run on all the banks in Uganda, then the whole banking sector will collapse. At the end of the day, the economy is going to be affected very significantly. And that's why the Deposit Protection Fund comes out to tell depositors that please, one, know the performance of your bank so that you bank with confidence. Two, avoid listening to rumors, because those rumors are usually unfounded. And I think if you look in the history of Uganda, you've had a lot of rumors, but did any of those banks close?
It's only one. It's only one where I had the rumor and I delayed. And actually it did cross, but
anyway, we shall get to that. But generally, that is not the case. Yeah. There are lots of rumors about different banks closing.
Many are not true, but there was one that was true, yes.
Many are not true. So what we want to encourage Ugandans is avoid those rumors and get information on your bank from credible sources, which is the financial statements that are issued in the papers, and also the assurance that the Bank of Uganda gives. Because many times the Bank of Uganda has come up to say, this bank is stable. Continue banking with confidence. The public has listened to that, and the bank will continue. So continue listening to the Bank of Uganda and continue banking with confidence, knowing that your deposit up to the 10 million is protected, and there is a regulator, the Bank of Uganda, that keeps giving us credible information on the performance of these financial institutions.
Now, Doctor, a quick one before I bring in the callers. I know many people today, we have mobile money. Yes. Someone tells you, for me, don't bother. My money is on my phone. And then also, does the mandate of the Deposit Protection Fund extend to SACCOs? Yes, Doctor.
Okay. So for mobile money, there's another mechanism that protects the mobile money owners, because there's the National Payments Act, which states that when the banks receive your money in form of mobile money, they can only invest in treasury bills and bonds, which means that if anything happened to MTN or Airtel, for example, that money will easily be liquidated to pay the owners of the mobile money, or those who have put some money in mobile money accounts. So although the DPF does not protect mobile money directly, there is another framework that protects the mobile money owners, and so they should also continue using that service with confidence. The other question was about the SACCOs. So now the SACCOs are regulated by UMRA, Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority, and I know that they're in the process of coming up with a fund to also protect them. But what we also advise SACCO owners is that when you've collected that money from your members, try and deposit it in institutions that are regulated either by Bank of Uganda or UMRA or any other government arm. Because that gives you confidence that there is someone overseeing that institution that you have put the money in, and avoid putting it in your house, in a safe in your house, or putting it in a pot. Take it to an institution that is regulated, especially by any of the arms of the government of Uganda.
Well, thank you so much for that, because, you know, many people now, SACCOs there, you find they have an office, then they have a safe there, they keep their money, they have one with a bow and arrow, sometimes even nothing. And when that happens, they're simply told they broke in and stole our SACCO money. So that's the best advice you can ever get if you're running the SACCO. Now, I want to get your views and opinions on the topic of discussion. The number is 0709 60 25 92. 0709 60 25 92. That is the number you can call, and I'll be very glad to hear your concerns regarding the topic of discussion this morning. Kindly give me your name, where you're calling from, and reduce the volume of your set so that we can hear you very well. Or simply move away from your TV set so that we can communicate effectively. That is the number, 0709 60 25 92. It is all about the Deposit Protection Fund, my dear brother and sister. That is where we want to focus on. What are your concerns about that? What do you want to know about this institution that ensures your deposits are safe wherever they are, if they are within that category? Hello? Well, please. Hello? Hello? Well, I think I'll be coming back to you later. Now, Patrick, what happens to us who have dollar accounts and other foreign currencies? Because, yes, I can decide to have a dollar account. What happens? Do you also cover me? Oh, that is another story. And what is my maximum? Am I also still within the range of 10 million? Oh, being a dollar account, maybe you can cover me to 100 million as well.
Thankfully, you seem to have answered yourself as well in the question. But just to say that a foreign currency does not necessarily disadvantage our local currency. First and foremost, to note that we are a sovereign state, and our currency is the shilling. So those who have accounts which are denominated in the other foreign currencies, yes, they are protected. But the first thing we do is we convert the foreign currency into our local currency, using the exchange rate that was going the night before the closure of your financial institution. So as at midnight, the night before closure, whatever the exchange rate was, is what we apply to convert your foreign denominated currency into local shillings. Once we now bring it to local shillings, we have now brought it to a language we understand. Okay? Then at that point,
first speak a call
we
there.
apply. Okay.
Hello?
Hello?
Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning to you.
Is it possible to contribute to that talk show?
Hello, your new BCTV?
Possible to contribute to the talk show on TV?
Yes, it's a talk show on TV. Please go ahead.
Morning, Kirabo.
Morning to you.
A pleasure to be able to access. Yes, a pleasure to access your conversation.
Yes?
This is Andrew Mugisha from Soro.
Yes, Andrew.
Kirabo, it's amazing that you bring the gentleman and the lady in the studio.
I'm getting you.
I keep wondering about the mandate. Apparently, I salute them.
Yes.
Unfortunately, what they are speaking about, the nice narratives giving on TV does not translate into the reality in the commercial banks. I assure you, the leakages, the risks that clients meet in the banks, even.
Oh, sorry, I've lost Andrew from Kisoro, but he was more like, what we are talking about, what my guest does not translate what clients meet in the bank. But I didn't get what exactly is that clients meet, because I think we have another caller. Hello? Hello? Hello, caller. Good morning. Hello? Well, it seems we've lost that one. Why I wanted to get more clarity with Andrew, reason being here we are talking about a bank that has closed. Now, not affairs in a bank before closure, because the Deposit Protection Fund only comes in, they start your journey. Hello, good morning. Calls coming in, keep the calls coming in, we'll pick you. And of course, hello? Good morning.
I am Andrew.
Yes, Andrew, you're back. Good.
My brother. Hello?
Hello, Andrew, I'm
This
getting
Andrew
you.
is back. I am pointing out 3 scenarios.
Please.
3 scenarios where personnel in the bank collude with the fraudsters and get money off people's accounts. And the clients can never get answers from the management of the banks. We have got banks. We have got banks that have had issues of closure, and there is no insurance on the people's accounts. Charles, we have got serious interference with the personal accounts. So you find someone has debited your.
Oh, sorry, I think it is Chisoro, not very near from us here, but we want to appreciate you and thank you so much, Patrick, for being part of this show. I mean, Andrew, for being part of this show. Now, among the concerns he raised where a bank closes and maybe they can't access his records or something like that, and it's then, I think, hard for them to follow up. So I think let me put this to the CEO here. If one, just to try to panel beat his question, how do I get to that I'm going to get my money? Where do I run to? How do you find me? Because the bank may have those complications. Yes, I'm banking with a particular bank, but maybe during closure, someone did some manyanga. Because it is coming to an end. There may be smart people who also want to fleece. They deleted and all that, and here I am. I'm interested. You can't trust me, maybe. Or there's something done, and it's hard for you to get the records right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Robert, for paraphrasing that question very nicely. So what happens is when a bank is closed, first of all, Bank of Uganda takes charge of the entire bank completely. All the records are now in the hands of Bank of Uganda. The IT system is in the hand of Bank of Uganda. Bank of Uganda goes through a process of verifying the balances to make sure that nothing has been deleted on that day, as you have mentioned. So they're able to look at the balances, confirm that these are the right balances, and that is what they give to the Deposit Protection Fund to be able to pay. Also, the deposit records are maintained and safely secured. Those are also shared with us, and we're able to get in touch with the depositors. But I don't know whether Andrew was a depositor in either Mercantile EFC, because for those depositors, we've been able to reach out to most of them, and the ones we have failed to reach out to is because they had not also updated their records with their commercial banks or their banks. So we have seen KYC documents where a phone number is missing. So if the phone number is missing, it's then hard to call the depositor. But those who have given that information, we're able to get in touch with them, ask them to give us additional information, especially the claim, saying that I'm claiming for the money that I had in this bank and I'm expecting DPF to pay. And we have processed a lot of claims. I also wanted to probably touch on that second question that he had about the experiences depositors are going through when they're interacting with their banks, and to advise depositors that they're not alone. The Bank of Uganda has a customer service desk where you can actually write your complaint, especially if you feel you have gone through all the channels within the bank and you have not been addressed, your problem has not been addressed. The Bank of Uganda has a window to which you can write, and the Bank of Uganda looks into that issue and is able to come up with a solution. So depositors should take advantage of that.
Now, Doctor, relatedly,
service.
you've talked about paying. Now, this brings me to ask, how is the Deposit Protection Fund funded?
Yeah.
Where do you get this money? You know, we pay to a tune, we've been paying, we've paid. Yes.
Yeah. And it's a very good question, because the depositors will recall that when the two banks have been closed, I have gone on national TV saying we have the money. Do not be worried, we have sufficient money. So this money comes from the banks. Every year they pay us an annual premium. And when we receive that annual premium, we again invest it in various instruments. Currently we're investing mostly in treasury bills and bonds, and that has helped the fund to grow sufficiently well. And depositors should rest assured that if anything happened to their bank, we'll be able to pay as fast as possible up to the 10 million shillings. We have that money.
Well, now also this brings me, Patrick, do depositors have to pay any money to the fund?
The straight answer to that is a no. The relationship is such that a depositor keeps their money with the regulated financial institution. Okay? We deal with the regulated financial institution. They share with us the depositor information, they make a contribution to the basket, and so on and so forth. So many a time people have actually, probably maybe it's in our name, people take the word protection literally to mean should anything happen to a depositor, DPF is there to come to protect. But we have to emphasize that we don't interface directly with the depositor, but we do that through the financial institution where they're keeping their money. So the stories of depositors being told that this amount is going to DPF are outright lies. A depositor does not pay a shilling to the DPF.
And just to add that we keep asking depositors that when they look on their bank statements, if they see any deduction saying Deposit Protection Fund, please raise an alarm to the DPF, raise an alarm to Bank of Uganda. That should not happen.
Well, time seems to be flying very fast, but also I just want to thank you, our viewer, who's been with us from the time of 9 till now with just a few minutes to the top of the hour. I must let my guests go, but before I let them go, I'll just give each one a minute or two to have what they may not have told us, and that is their parting shot or something they want to emphasize. I'll begin with Patrick.
Thank you, Robert. Emphasis for me is on the depositor records. The two banks that collapsed this year, we were able to effectively pay them very quickly. I think in the case of EFC, 8 days after closure, and then for Mercantile, 4 days. That was because those depositors had their records up to date. And when we mean up to date, what are we talking about? We're talking about your national ID, we're talking about your telephone number, we're talking about an alternative account, bank account to which you may want to be paid. So depositors are encouraged to ensure that these records are up to date. CEO has informed you that the records you keep with your bank are shared with us periodically. So when a number changes, sometimes you may lose a phone, or you've changed the number and it is different from what you had in the previous account. Please take time. In peace times when things are calm, pass by your financial institution, update those records, because that is very important for us at the point of verifying who we should pay if the need arises. Now, once we find that the information, your personal information, is not correct, we cannot take the risk to make any payment. The danger there is that you are likely to face a delay as we go through our verification processes, because you don't want to get money paid to somebody who is not the rightful owner. So my key message to them is ensure that your records are up to date. And finally, let me wrap by saying I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, enjoy a festive season, drive safe for those going to the village.
Well, now, Doctor, we've come to the end, and I must let you go, but definitely I know there's one or two that you want our viewer to take home.
Okay, first of all, I would like to also wish our viewers a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and safe travels as you go to whatever destinations you will be going to. But back to the parting shot is Ugandans, please get to know your bank. Get to know the performance of your bank through credible sources. Avoid listening to rumors. And also bank with confidence with institutions that are regulated by Bank of Uganda or another ambit of the government. I'm also happy to note that over the last few years, we have seen deposits growing in the financial sector, which means indeed you're listening and heeding to our call to deposit in the regulated financial institutions. Keep this up and invite also your friends and relatives to do the same. I wish you all the best and thank you for listening and viewing this show.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Julia Claire Olima Oyet, who is the Chief Executive Officer, the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. Thank you so much for your time. Okay. And Patrick Ezaga, who happens to be the Director of Communication, who has been at the extreme end. Thank you so much. And above all, my bosses, you the viewer, thank you so much for being with us right away from 6:30 till now. We never take you for granted. Now, one thing is, if you bank with a credible institution under the central bank, the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda is there to cover you to a tune of 10 million, but also during the liquidation process, once it's done, you're assured of your money. So your money is safe, but also you have a role to play. Knowing the status of your bank is something I've learned from the CEO this morning. This is very, very important. Don't be excited with the interest. What is the status? Is the bank about to, or is it doing very well and will protect your money? Have a lovely day. May the good Lord bless you. Merry Christmas.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.